All right, this is a CBS News special report. You've been listening to WWL, our station in New Orleans. I'm Michael George in New York. We are continuing our coverage of a mass casualty incident overnight in New Orleans. At least 10 people were killed when a truck drove into a crowd of New Year's Eve revelers in the city's world-famous French Quarter. And the incident began around 3:15 a.m. Central Time. Here's what we know from police. A man driving a pickup truck drove through barricades at a high rate of speed, hitting multiple people. At least 35 people were transported to hospitals with injuries. And this appears to be an intentional act because police say the suspect got out of his vehicle and shot 2 officers. They were hit and are now in stable condition. Also, possible explosives were also found nearby. It's unclear right now if they're related to the attack. The FBI will be taking over the investigation, and here's what the assistant special agent in charge had to say.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not.
You've just heard video of a news briefing earlier from New Orleans where, again, at least 10 people were killed when a truck drove into a crowd in the early morning hours. Kati Weis arrived at the scene a short time after this incident happened. Kati, what are witnesses telling you right now?
Well, good morning. It's just been a chaotic morning, to say the least. A lot of really scared people. That's plain and simple, to put it in those terms for you, here in the iconic French Quarter of New Orleans. You know, this is an area, Bourbon Street is the place for a joyous, party on New Year's Eve. This is a place where people are walking around. The streets are closed to cars. This is a place where people are walking around in the street, having a good time, ringing in the new year. Suddenly, witnesses told me all of a sudden this truck just came in, plowed through this crowd of people. And as we heard from the NOLA police superintendent, this person was showing some, quote, very intentional behavior. They were, quote, trying to run over as many people as they could. That this was not just a DUI situation. And that aligns with what I heard from witnesses just moments after this happened, that this truck plowed through a crowd of people. Many people were hit. One woman even told me her husband's ankle was clipped by the truck. She said they ducked into a club to try to be safe and find some cover. Everyone was looking out of windows of bars, trying to see what was going on. No one really had any information other than people just saying there's bodies all over the ground. And as police started letting people out of the different bars in that area, those tourists, those locals alike, local employees, everyone got a view of how horrific this really was. I mean, we saw people on the ground getting help, both from first responders and from Good Samaritans. We saw people being put onto stretchers. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. It's not a way that you want to ring in the new year, for sure. A terrible way to start out this first day of 2025. And of course, as you heard some of the folks with the local station WWL talking about, today is also a big game day here. You know, just a few blocks from where this took place is where that big game is going to happen. And we know from New Orleans police that they will be on top of it. They've assured everyone, don't worry, quote, we are going to make sure our Superdome is safe today for the game. New Orleans police has really tried to step up their efforts when it comes to security. There's many more security cameras in the French Quarter right now and in the Central Business District, many more security cameras than ever before. But unfortunately, here we are seeing this very unexpected, horrific act of violence. Michael?
Kati, one of the big questions that's unanswered right now, police haven't said what happened to the suspect. Is he alive? Is he in custody? Have you heard anything about this suspect?
That's something that I'm working to find out as well. I think that's a big question on everyone's mind. We know that after this suspect allegedly plowed through this crowd of people, witnesses did tell me that the person who was driving that truck got out with what appeared to be some kind of automatic style weapon. I asked, did it look like a pistol or more of like a rifle? Witnesses described it more as a rifle style automatic weapon who shot allegedly at these police officers. But as far as what may have happened, we're still trying to find out. It was chaos. People just said they heard multiple gunshots after the truck plowed through the crowd of people. So still gathering a lot more information. We know there's going to be a police briefing just in a couple of hours. I'm going to be there. I'll be sure to bring you much more information as soon as I get it, Michael.
Katie, I want to set the scene for our viewers. Bourbon Street. This happened around 3 a.m. New Year's Eve, New Year's morning. Tell us about what things were like leading up to this. I have to imagine there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a big holiday for New Orleans. You know, I grew up just a couple hours away in Mobile. Many people all across the Gulf Coast travel here to New Orleans to spend their New Year's here. So whether you're from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or even, you know, any of the other southern states or beyond, other countries, people come here to this iconic place to celebrate. You get this kind of Mardi Gras style way of celebrating the new year. New Orleans is a city unlike any other in this country. It's got this European feel. It's a special place, and it's the only place in many respects where, you know, things don't really get going until far after midnight on a New Year's Eve kind of night. 3 a.m. is a peak hour, really, for this kind of a city. So this is when a lot of people are out, and many people know that as well. So as far as the intent here, certainly something that a potential attacker may know. Did they know this? Was this part of the plan? That is something we are going to continue to try to find out and get more confirmation. But as far as, you know, how popular this is, 3 a.m. was definitely a big time of night for many, many people to be out on Bourbon at that hour.
And Katie, we heard from police earlier in the news conference that this suspect drove through and around barricades. Are roads typically closed off in that area, especially on New Year's?
Absolutely. That part of the French Quarter is known to be a walkable area. There are these big barricades that come up from out of the ground. So they're big metal barricades. There's also removable barricades as well that block vehicles off to traffic. And so there's multiple barricades that would prevent a car from coming through, theoretically. So this would have to be something where someone would need to really, you know, put some force behind it to make their way through.
Katie, stand by with us. I want to bring in, we spoke with some witnesses, Jim and Nicole Maurer, Des Moines residents who were visiting family in New Orleans. They were on Bourbon Street when the incident happened. Let's take a listen.
It was traveling at a very high rate of speed, and so we were in the middle of the road and managed to run off the road onto the sidewalk and into the doorway of a building for cover. We did hear gunfire, saw police running that direction. We stayed in the alcove until the gunfire stopped, came out into the street, and came across several people who had been hit. Wanted to see what we could do to help and administer any first aid. The people we came across were unfortunately deceased.
Just horrific scene there that we're hearing from the people on the ground in New Orleans. Again, this is 3 a.m. right in the heart of the city on Bourbon Street. Let's go back now to Katie Weis. She's been on the scene from the early morning hours. Katie, I know you've been talking with witnesses. At that time, on New Year's morning, there had to be a lot of noise, music, big crowds. From what you've heard from witnesses, when did people realize what was happening?
That's a really great question. I mean, I think it all happened very rapidly. All of a sudden, people started saying, there's a shooting. And then suddenly, as people started looking out the windows, started, you know, talking amongst each other, people were saying, no, it wasn't just a shooting. There was a car, there was a truck, that truck there, that was the one. And so people were trying to help each other get more information because everyone, understandably, was worried. Hey, what is going on here? And is my safety at risk at this point? Certainly a big development to hear that there were potential explosives found elsewhere. That was something showing that many people had no idea at that hour. Many people just thinking, okay, seems like the shooting's over. Can we go? You know, for a long time, police kept the scene clear, kept people in the bars near where this all took place. People were anxiously waiting to get out. But I could certainly relate to that man's testimony, witness testimony about, you know, seeing people on the ground getting help. It was pretty awful, pretty terrible, tragic to see all of these people in agony, people in critical situations needing medical attention at that kind of an hour.
And Kati, it's a quarter past the hour. We want to get people up to speed. Right now we're seeing a live picture in New Orleans, the site of this awful New Year's tragedy, our continued coverage of a mass casualty incident overnight in New Orleans. At least 10 people were killed when a truck drove into a crowd of New Year's Eve revelers in the city's world-famous French Quarter. Again, this started around 3:15 local time. A man driving a pickup truck, according to police, drove through barricades at a high rate of speed, hitting multiple people. At least 35 were transported to hospitals with injuries. The suspect then got out of his vehicle and shot 2 officers. They were hit and are apparently in stable condition. Right now, police haven't said whether or not the suspect is in custody. Also, possible explosives were found nearby. It's unclear if they're related to the attack. The FBI will be taking over the investigation. Now, all morning, Kati Weis has been on the ground talking with witnesses, talking with the people there who were just trying to enjoy their New Year's. Kati, if you could talk about, you know, when we think about New Year's, people come in with an optimistic, positive mindset. I'm sure people out there were just having a good time, enjoying the night, and this is what they realize is happening right in front of their eyes. If you can talk about the mood from the witnesses that you've spoken with.
That's a great question. I think the mood was just shock and terror. A lot of people just wanting to have answers. Many people in disbelief. You know, you have all these people out having a wonderful time. Suddenly your mind has to shift from I'm ringing in the new year to I'm trying to make sure my life is not at risk. And so all of these people at once we're trying to make this shift mentally together. Everyone asking questions. Did you see this? Do you know what happened? I saw this. I saw that. People trying to help piece together what may have happened to make sure that they are okay and that they can move forward. Because looking at that scene, seeing the bodies strung across Bourbon Street, was something that many people never would have anticipated like that.
And at this point, we don't know the motive. We have been hearing from police that what is clear is this was intentional. According to police, this was not an accident. This person drove at a high rate of speed through barricades, came out shooting at officers. Again, police have not said whether or not the suspect is in custody. We are waiting to hear more information. They have promised an update at 11 a.m. But we're still waiting to hear what was behind this attack.